This is the Money Seed Podcast, where we discuss all things investing, plain and simple, the way it should be. Please remember, this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be investment advice. Welcome back to the Money Seed Podcast. My guest today is Ahuva Gruen, and she helps small and medium-sized businesses increase their profitability, and she is a fractional CFO. Ahuva, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited.
I got to ask right off the bat, what is a fractional CFO?
Fractional CFO is a part-time CFO. I go into businesses as a consultant to help them grow and succeed in their business, in the financial, help them where they're leaking out money, where they're leaving money on the table, where they can make more money, and really help them and to get to the next step. And it's much more effective. It is much more financially good. So as a part-time CFO, they're not paying a full-time salary. I have over 20 years experience. They're not paying for a CFO with over 20 years experience salary and benefits, but they pay for what they need. And it's really a wonderful model.
So tell me, what kind of businesses do you work with typically? How big are they, and what type of industries are they in?
From $1 million to like 20 million, construction, service businesses, professional services, manufacturing, Amazon businesses, all different types of businesses I work with.
And when you mentioned 1 million to 20 million, that's annual gross revenue, correct?
Yeah, annual gross revenue. And you asked a good question, which type of businesses? I see a lot of common issues in businesses that you would not think have similar issues. They could be, let's say, construction related, service business to professional, like a law firm. There are common themes, and yes, each type of business, each industry has different specific pain points and issues, but there's a common denominator. And usually it's profit margins, it's cash flow, it's mismanagement money, not knowing what's going on financially. That's one of my pet peeves. Open your eyes. Business owners tell me, I open their eyes. They had no clue. If they think they have a clue or they don't, they usually don't know.
Yeah, so let's get into that, because it's quite easy to think that, hey, maybe a construction company has completely different problems than, say, a cinema or a restaurant or something. But from the way you're describing it, is many of these problems are common across different industries. And you mentioned a few of them already, but usually when a new client starts working with you and you start working with the management team, you start looking at their books, what are the top 2 or 3 problems that you see come across all kinds of different industries?
Great question. What I see the most common come across is profit margins, cash flow, and the most basic is not knowing what's going on financially.
So let's talk about profit margins. Ahuva, let me dive right into there about profit margins, because I think that's something that maybe a lot of young entrepreneurs who are just getting into the entrepreneur game maybe don't really understand. What type of gross margins do we need to have for a healthy business? And what kind of net profit margins should people aim for?
The net profit margins, it fluctuates with the industry, but usually like 30-40%.
Net?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's actually higher than I would
Because
have thought.
if you're on 10% net profit margin, a business is in survival mode. Business owners, if your business is 10% net profit margin, your business is survival. You're like, it's not viable, because you have one slow month, one big customer goes down and you're under. It's one of my biggest passion, is like telling the world, wake up. I had a client, he said to me, I'm good pricing. I said, when I came in, really? He was using deposit to fund operation. There was big issues, like what is going on? They think they're good with pricing. Profit margins, you have to know your cost. You have to know your overhead. You have to know what's your direct cost, what's your direct labor, what's your direct material. If you don't know your cost, you cannot even know what's your profit margin. You can't even know what to aim for. You have to know your cost. Once you know your cost, then you can know what's your gross profit margin. And then once you know what your gross profit margin, you have to know what's your overhead, what's your rent, what's your utilities, what's your marketing, your advertising, your payroll. Then you could get to a net profit margin. And
So that,
sometimes, yeah.
I was going to say, and what can companies do to increase profit margin? I mean, you can't, I have the feeling that companies can't just increase their prices. Maybe sometimes they can, but sometimes they can't. What are the biggest ways? Should they start to spend more on advertising? Should they look to cut their costs that they have internally? What are the ways that you can get a company to get to that 30% net profit margin?
Okay, number one, it's a combination of what you said. Number one, they have to know what their cost is. Once you know what your cost is, then you have to really analyze what services are you making money. And the services that you're not making so much money, you have to really look by project, look by items you sell, look by services, what you're making money. And if an item that you're not making much money and you can't raise it because the industry standard, what are you serving it? Should you try not to serve it? But is it a lead magnet? If it's a lead magnet, which means a service or item that you sell that you don't make much money on, but it leads to people using your service again and again, then it's worth it, because even if you're not making much money on it, it's bringing you in more business. But if it's not, and you're not making much money, then don't do it, or try to do it less. Focus on what you're making much more money. Number one, you have to know what your sales target based on your profit margin, based on your overhead. The bottom, I don't get excited when I hear sales, how much people make in sales. I get excited what's the net profit margin. So based on what you could raise it, and based on what's your overhead, what's your target net profit is it's your pricing, it's your sales target. Another thing is, if you can't raise your prices and you can't get more sales, it's not like you could always press the gas to the pedal to get more sales. It doesn't always work like that. Then you have to look at your expenses. What are you spending on? What it could be, I had a client, he was spending in the beginning a lot on advertising, on Google, on marketing, but he now has sales influx. He doesn't have to spend that amount of money a month on sales. So we're having a call with marketing and advertising firm that does it, where we could cost, what he could take over himself, what's worth it, what's not worth it. Cut costs. Open your eyes. Know what things costing. If you're outsourcing to Vietnam or out of the country, do you need such big office space? And you're paying utilities and rent or mortgage, or you could sublease, move to smaller, what's going on? What services are you using and your staff is not using? Or there's hundreds and hundreds of programs, thousands of programs. Is your employees using it? Are you using it? If you're not using it, either start using it. A program is only good if you're using it, and if you're not using it, stop it. You sign up to a trial, but then you forget about it, and you're just paying every month, and that's how they make money.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the subscription model works, I think, to a large degree, because like you said, people will just forget about the fact that they signed up, and it just comes out of their credit card every month, and they don't even notice
Exactly.
it. So
Right.
I'm really curious. So you obviously work with a lot of different companies in different industries. What are some of the more profitable, more successful businesses? And let me ask in a different way. Let's say if you had a nephew right now who was 25 or 30 and he was thinking about starting his own business, what industries or what type of businesses would you say, hey, you know what, try this one because this one seems to work better than this other one?
It's a great question. I have to start off. I heard a line years ago and it stuck with me. You could sell peanuts and popcorn, and that's all you'll make. Peanuts and popcorn. Or you can sell peanuts and popcorn and make a fortune. Law firms, for example, they're supposed to be so lucrative. I have a client who's cutting even, and he has 4 attorneys working for him. If you don't have good processes, good team culture, good accountability, it doesn't matter what you are in. Amazon business, people make it, but it's a really tough service-based construction. One of my favorites, everyone in real estate. People do very well in real estate, but if you don't know what you're doing, you could go under. People are afraid to invest in the financials of their company, but then they could go under. Construction-based businesses, they could make millions, hundreds of thousands. But if you're not structured right, if you don't have good processes, you don't have good pricing, you don't have good cash flow, you could go under. Manufacturing, they could make a ton of money, but they could also lose a ton of money. I think no matter what business you're in, you could think you have to love what you're doing. You have to, a lot of these business owners, they have the skill, they think, great, I'm great at this, I'm great at that, I'll open a business. But they're forgetting that they have to know what's going on financially. Whatever's going on in their business, operation, anything, advertising, marketing, everything hits the bottom line. Most people, and not all, they're in the business to make money. Yes, they have a passion, they love, and let's even not-for-profits. But even not-for-profits, someone has to feed their family. So that's really what I would say. It's not so much you could sell peanuts and popcorn and that's what you make, or you could sell peanuts and popcorn and make a fortune.
So it sounds like it's more about you as a person. Do you love what you're doing? Do you have the good processes in place? Are you working diligently at your business? It sounds like that is going to determine your success much more so than the type of business you open.
Yeah, and guidance. I love the book Who Not How, about not everything to do yourself, but to get the guidance, to get the expertise, to get the employee, to learn to delegate, to really have and I think it's so sad to me when businesses don't have their financial and they had promising businesses and it goes down because of the financial. It's one of the reasons why I love podcasts is because I like to educate the business world about really so people should not go under and should really make money and not just spin their wheels.
When somebody is deciding to go into business, right? Let's say they're thinking, you know what, I want to, because I think every human being at some point or another thinks, you know what, I should start a business and try this or try that. What advice would you give them? What are the first 2 or 3 things they have to ask themselves if they're making the right decision and they really should open this business or start something new?
Great question. I get asked that a lot. When you're opening a business, you have to ask yourself, do you have thick skin? Are you really invested in it? Could you afford the expertise? Do you have financial ideas? Don't just spend on a fancy office and a fancy phone system or advertising on a fancy website. Get the money in the door. Start getting clients. Start building up. You could make your own website with Wix or one of these, and later do it again. Just get money in the door. If you need expertise, get help. Get a mentor. Hire a fractional person. Get help. My first business I started at 5 years old. I convinced my mother, my teacher, to go use my mother's service business. By 10 years old, I had a full-fledged candy business. But I knew I was 10 years old, but I was already a business kid. I bought candy for 7 cents, sold it for a quarter, in the neighborhood, in school, in camp, all over. But I had a business head. It's not just having the great idea. And I believe people should open their own business. Not everyone should be an employee forever, but it's you have to have thick skin, because in the beginning it is tough and you have to keep pushing. Like my father once said to me, you start, you finish. But you also really important have to have a business sense. You have to have financial help or someone to helping you.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned that people need to have thick skin, because almost every good, successful entrepreneur story has stories of failure as well. Like somebody started a business, failed, started something else, failed. And by the time they start a 3rd or 4th business, that's the success story that you hear about. And so you have to have that thick skin. You have to have that ability to, just basically roll with the punches and take it as it comes.
And you really have to be determined. I started at 10, I had the candy business. In high school, I was cutting people's hair. By the time I graduated, I was going to, I got a job and I was going to college. And then after 20 years of working for a business and putting my heart and soul, and when I left it in COVID, I said, what do I want to do? Do I want to go work for a nursing home? Do I want to work another CFO? And I decided, and I saw from helping different family and friends and neighbors in businesses, and in their financial, they were good at what they did, but they were terrible at running their financial. And I want to like shake them, like if you would just do this and this, you would do well. Just like a medical person, do your billing on time. You're going on cash flow. It was a doctor of mine. You're going on cash. You have cash flow issues. If you don't bill on time, you're not going to make your ends meet. If you're wasting money in a big office that you're not using, another friend of mine, you're losing money. If you don't, if you're a service, if you're in this, if you have a business with inventory, if you don't know tracking, if you're not pricing, you're going to lose money. You're not watching how much items are, if they're not selling, sell it for lower or get rid of it. Figure it out. So I decided after 20 years, I wasn't 20 years old anymore. And I said, if not now, then when? And I left in COVID and I and I said, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And whatever I wasn't good at, the financials, I'm really good. And this was always my passion. I was always a businesswoman, but things I wasn't good at, I got the help. And that's really what I really believe in. What you're good at, you do. What you're not so good at, it could take you forever. You could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising or marketing or whatever it is. Get the help. And you have to be like, oh, not out fun pack and get another 9 to 5 job. You really have to be determined because it's not easy in the beginning. I don't think most businesses are easy in the beginning.
I got to ask you a little bit more about that transition from being a full-time employee to being an entrepreneur. I think that's a very uncomfortable transition for many people. It seems like it's a big step to take. I mean, it sounds like you had a great career, a great corporate job. You have a paycheck coming in regularly, you got great benefits, etc. What was the decision making for you on a personal level to say, I can walk away from it and I'm going to take this risk and start my own company?
Great question. What made me do, there was a numerous thing. I never dreamed from working from home, but in COVID, honestly, when everyone was working from home, it made it that a little bit easier transition. I had passion that I wanted to help businesses. I have kids that I'm raising, and it's when you work for yourself. Yes, I work at night, I work at day, but you get flexibility. When my kids have off, I'm off at once I'm over. Eventually, people don't want older employees, and I figured, like my sister said to me, if not now, then when? What are you waiting for to open your own business? To share your knowledge more than with one business, to spread my knowledge, to spread my experience. So it's a combination of being a mother, of like having enough to building someone else's business. I wanted to build my own business. Once you're over 40, it's the time, right, is to start go up on that. No one is going to hire a 6-year-old, but if you're a 6-year-old business owner, then your experience means something. It was a combination. It was after COVID, which everyone was like working from home, so that made the transition easier. It was a blind leap of faith financially, but I believe in my higher power will help me. And yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. It sounds like it's been working out really well for you. And tell us a little bit more about your company and where can people reach out to you if they are entrepreneurs who are looking for help?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Ahuva Gruen. My business name is AG Financial Services. They could reach out to me either through LinkedIn or my website, ahuvacfo.com. I have a freebie for your listeners of your show, the 10 biggest mistakes businesses make and how to avoid them.
Love it. I'll put all those links into the show notes. Ahuva, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Money Seed podcast. Please remember to click like and subscribe. It really helps spread the message to other investors and it helps attract new viewers to the show. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much.